Welcome back, Mac Reddit fans. In today's video, I will read out 5 of the wildest and craziest Am I the AH stories Reddit has to offer. The stories feature intense family drama to relationship twists you won't believe. Let's dive together. The first story is from Berry Revolutionary 20. AITA for never wanting to speak to father again after learning he slept with a minor. For background, my parents were never together. My mom was a troubled teen who didn't have the greatest parents and met my dad at a party when she was 15. My father was in 20. They conceived me a few weeks after meeting but never pursued a relationship. So, my relationship with my father has never been great. Growing up, I would spend summers with him and whatever girlfriend he was with. Even in relationships, my father was never faithful, and I was taught at an early age to lie for him. Around 10 years old, I realized that he was never going to change, never had any desire to step up as a father, and was never going to take accountability for his shortcomings. But in 2019, I received a Facebook message from a woman claiming that my father was a and she had proof. So I looked at the messages and asked what she meant because that's a serious accusation. She called me on Facebook to explain. This is where it gets wild. She said she recently found out that my father had relations with her daughter about 15 years ago. Her daughter was 31, which makes us the same age. She explained that my father was her PE teacher, and like many young teens, she had an innocent crush on him. One day, my father offered her a ride home, and at some point, it escalated to her giving him. Following the incident, he ignored her, and she transferred classes. So, they never interacted again for the remaining 2 years she was at the same school. After she graduated, my father somehow met the mom, the woman who sent me the messages, at a mall. Through conversations, my father mentioned he worked at the school. She mentioned her daughter went there, and he said that he knew her because she was once in his class years earlier. My father, even though married but it was long distance, proceeded to have a relationship with the mom. They even went out of state to NY to visit the daughter, but she never met up with them for various excuses. Eventually, the mom discovered my father was still married and ended the relationship. At this point, the daughter still didn't mention to her mom the incident that happened years prior. Then in 2019, my father reached out to the daughter with some flirty message, and she felt disgusted and scared, like why he was even reaching out. She finally decided to tell her mom what happened. The mom was filled with anger and embarrassment that she was also in a relationship with this man, not knowing what he had done with her daughter, and disgusted by the level of sick. Rightfully so. Hence the mom reaching out to my father via Facebook, who admitted that it shouldn't have happened, but it was more so, he shouldn't have put himself in that position, but it wasn't entirely all his fault. So, because his lack of accountability, the mom wanted everyone, including his wife and kids, to know. I spoke to the daughter and cried. I told her how sorry I was that he took advantage of her, and that I know that may mean nothing, but I'm on her side because I had women in my life that were, and I don't wish that on anyone. She said sorry that it took so long to say something, but she lived in fear for many years because it felt like he was taunting her, especially by dating her mom and acting innocent, even trying to visit her while dating her mom. But the recent message gave her the courage to call him out. So after learning this, I called my stepmom to ask her what we should do. She also received the same messages, but my father deleted them when she asked about it before she can read it. She said she didn't want to get involved. So I called him and asked him. After trying to lie to me for 30 minutes, I told him I had the proof. He finally admitted, but basically said it wasn't his fault because she came on to him. I reminded him how sick he was because she is a child, the exact age as me. He knew exactly what he was doing, and clearly this is a pattern because my mom was also underage. I called him a and told him I never want to speak to him again. I also told him that as much as it sickens me, I also wasn't entirely shocked. Something in me knew this woman had no reason to lie this many years later, and that I'm sure that she isn't the only one. He is only admitting to what I know. And because of that, I want nothing to do with him. I didn't care if he needs a kidney or died, that I never want to hear from him again. I did make the choice to report him to the police within the state it happened, even though it had been many years. There are no time limitations of reporting because he worked for a school, but they couldn't do anything because the young lady it happened to do not choose to report/file. But I felt that it was my duty to at least not stay silent. After this, I also cut off all communication with my stepmom. I found it hard to look past it that she could still be married to this man who has cheated on her almost all their marriage, that she was raising a daughter and son but would tolerate this behavior. And let's not forget, also had a child outside their marriage. I also told my father's siblings, who I have a good relationship with. It was then when I discovered that my father also had slept with the daughter of a close family friend years prior, while he was also sleeping with her mom. Let me add, the woman was his high school sweetheart, who lived across the street. Her daughter was about 2 years younger than me. Growing up, the daughter would always make comments about my father being handsome, and we would tell her to stop because he was basically like an uncle. He changed her diapers for goodness sake. The daughter was also around 16 when she slept with my father. I didn't know until a few months after I found out from the other women, so that happened about 13 years before. One of my uncles stopped speaking to my father after this, so all of this happened 5 years ago. My father had been trying to contact me several times. He has written me emails, created new FB, Instagram, and LinkedIn accounts asking to talk. I don't respond and just block them. My younger sister recently had a baby and kept asking me to at least hear him out, but I refuse. I'm now getting annoyed why she would even ask me to know the truth about it. I'm sure my stepmom kept saying that it wasn't true and that I was believing lies, but I know my father better than they do. I'm his first daughter and seen the unmasked version of his indiscretions more than they even know. I think I have every right to never want a relationship with that man. It's something I have even discussed with a past therapist who tried to make me feel empathy for him because he likely had been abused by someone when he was younger. Maybe it's the stubbornness in me, but it still didn't justify, even if that did happen to him in my book. And in the back of my mind, I keep wondering if he also tried anything on my younger sister. Even though I have asked several times, she denies it, but the loyalty she still has to him, even though she tried to commit suicide when she was about 15/16, has me questioning. The thought of even giving him the chance to speak makes my stomach in knots, because I know much. He will manipulate the truth to make himself seem like the victim. Yet people keep telling me that I don't make peace. I will regret it if something happens. So maybe the world of Reddit has another perspective, or validates that I'm right in my stance, and to continue to block him regardless of his attempts. AITA? OP is not at fault for cutting off ties with their father. Rather, the father is the one in the wrong. It is abhorrent to be related to such a despicable person. OP's actions are completely justified, so I would rate them 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. The father, on the other hand, is a big AH, so I would rate him 4.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP's stepmother, who chose not to intervene, is also an AH because her neutrality enables her husband's behavior. Therefore, I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from Slumbearing3. AITA, for being angry that my roommate was sleeping under my bed for months without telling me. I, 24M, have lived with my roommate Carl, 24M, for 2 years. A few months into rooming with him, he told me he was I said, okay, cool. I am not interested in that personal information, nor am I judgmental. I said, all right. A few times over the last year, he has asked me if I had ever considered experimenting with other men. I said nope. Also, I said I didn't feel comfortable with him asking me such a personal question. It's not like we are close friends, we are only roommates by happenstance, basically. Anyway, every time I said this, he basically said, we'll see. I was like, what? Anyways, last night I had a horrifying experience. I heard a noise under my bed. It was movement. At first I thought I was imagining things, but then I heard it again. I thought, oh god, is it a mouse or a rat or some shit? My god, this was like 3 a.m. So I got out of bed and looked under with my phone flashlight. Now this here was the most startling moment of my life. I guess I am lucky because I have never before this moment felt true terror and fear as a physical sensation. But I was completely jolted. There under my bed was my roommate staring wide-eyed at me. And he screeched when I looked under the bed. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. I then just started hearing, sorry, 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 sorry. My roommate crawled out from under the bed, crying, apologizing over and over. I was so creeped out and afraid that I ran out of the apartment in my pajamas. There was a Dunkin' Donut that was open 24/7 a few blocks away. So I just sat in there with a decaf and a breakfast sandwich, with my heart thundering away. My roommate kept texting me asking to talk. I ignored it. In the text, he found a way to horrify me even further. He confessed he had been sleeping under my bed a few nights a week for 3 or 4 months, and that he was doing it to get closer to me and psychically saturate each other. I waited for him to go to work, and I ran into the apartment, got my essentials, and left. I am currently crashing with a buddy. Our lease is up in 1 month. My intention is simply to not renew. This dude is blowing up my phone, and I am getting texts from other people, some friends of mine, and some bozos who are friends with him. He is going around telling people I shamed him and that I am rejecting his apologies. Some people are claiming I am overreacting and invalidating his feelings. Most people agree he was improper, but think I should work it out with him and give a second chance because he's sensitive. I feel like I am losing my mind, and I am seriously 20% convinced I am experiencing a long lucid dream of some sort and wondering if I am going to wake up or I am in a coma or something, because this is so insane to me. Like, not really, but maybe really. I mean, what the So AITA, or is everyone around me a nut? OP is not an AH for standing up to protect her boundaries. His roommate's actions are extremely mean and completely unjustifiable. OP's decision to leave and not forgive his roommate is 100% justified. There is nothing like give him a chance. The suggestions are completely childish. As for scores, I would rate OP's roommate 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now jump onto the next story from temporary_lie_3460. AITA. For walking out on a blind date my friend set up 2 weeks after my husband died. I just really need some clarity on this situation. I, 23F, lost my husband, 25M, weeks ago to a car accident. He was the love of my life, and I'm still not used to waking up without him every day. We had big plans for our future, and it all came crashing down in a heartbeat. We met on his uncle's farm. He was a farmhand, and it was love at first sight for me. I'm also 4 months pregnant, but I haven't told anyone. I was planning on telling my friend when I was feeling better. My best friend, Lee, 24F, has been my shoulder to cry on during this time. She helped me with his funeral and anything else I needed as I'm NC with my bio family. Story for another time. She is currently dating Barry, 24M, and they usually hang out in a trio with Liam, 24M. When I first met Liam, he hit on me hard, tried everything, like comparing himself with my husband and saying weird things like our kids would be cuter than if you had kids with my husband. He's also made weird comments like, I need a city boy, and would motion himself when I'm a country girl through and through. I typically would shut him down or ignore him, but I would always get dirty looks from Barry. Skip to Sunday night. I got a message from Lee begging me to come to dinner with her because she wanted to treat me as I had been through a lot in the last couple of weeks. Feeling not so bad about myself, I decided to go. When I arrived, she wasn't there, so I texted her asking how long she would be, and she told me 5 minutes. She's just running late and is around the corner. So I sat down and ordered a drink. Now 5 minutes comes and she's still not there, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt and waited another 5. When I'm about to call her, Liam comes rushing over and gives his apologies for being late. I asked him what he's doing here because I'm waiting for Lee, and it was a 2-chair table. He smiles at me and grabs my hand. I ripped it off of him and he just says, "Oh, I asked Lee to set us up. Now that my husband's name isn't a problem, we can finally get to know each other." He looked so cringy, and I'm telling you, I was floored. I stood up and told him that I wasn't interested, and I certainly don't give a flying fuck about getting to know him, and that I just lost my husband. Without a word of a lie, this man stands up and said, "I know you're being overly emotional right now, so I'll forgive you for that. Sit down with me. I'm not saying we must have sex straight away or anything." I was disgusted. I shoved past him and went home as fast as I could. When I did get home, Lee messaged me, "So, how was dinner?" with a smirk emoji. I called her, and when she answered, I didn't let her get a word in. I yelled at her, asked her how she has the audacity to do something like this week after I just lost my husband when she's been the one to hold me together this whole time. I asked her what game she was playing, and that the only reason I wanted to meet tonight was to tell her I'm pregnant. I just hung up on her and texted her that I need time and don't want to be contacted by her for the time being. Last night, Barry came to my house and asked to talk. I said no, and that if he didn't leave, I'd call the police. He told me that I broke Lee's heart and that I deeply hurt Liam, when now is an even better time to get to know Liam because he could raise my child with me. I opened my door, which Barry took as I wanted to talk. Instead, I hit him with my shoes and chased him to his car screaming. I'm actually embarrassed I did that. All day today, I'm being flooded with messages from friends and the trio themselves shaming me for pushing the people who care about me the most away, and that they don't even recognize the person I have become. The only thing that hurts me the most is that my husband would know what to do. He would tell me how to fix it. And now I have no one who I can talk to. I'm just so numb inside. I have a therapy appointment tomorrow, but I'm thinking of calling my husband's mom, even though we've barely spoken since the funeral. Any advice is appreciated. Please excuse any typos. I'm just so exhausted. Am I the AH? OP is not an AH for rebuffing the inappropriate man like Liam, who dismissed her grief and called her late husband's death an opportunity for entering a relationship with her. Liam is a big AH, and I would give him 4 out of 5 scores on the AH scale. OP's so-called friend Lee is also an AH for dragging OP into a date with such a weird person, so I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. OP has every right to set her boundaries and prioritize her safety and welfare over such friends. As OP is not an AH, I would give 0 out of 5 scores on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from Relationship Chronicles. I am suspicious of my wife and my friend's behavior. I want to check her phone. AITA? My wife, 30F, and I, 32M, just returned from a long weekend camping trip with 2 other couples, friends we've known for years. We had a great time, but something happened the morning we left that I can't shake. We were all packing up, getting ready to head back home. I was loading our car when I looked up and saw my wife and my friend at the campsite, several feet away. She was bent over to pick something up, and in that split second, I saw him reach out and squeeze her hip, sliding his hand down to her ass. My wife quickly pushed his hand away, but she didn't look upset. She was smiling at him, almost playfully. It all happened so fast, maybe a second or two, but it felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I glanced around, but no one else seemed to have seen it. His wife was busy packing up their car, and the other couple was further away, chatting about the ride back. The drive home was quiet. My wife tried making conversation, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying that scene over and over. When she asked why I was so quiet, I lied and said I was just thinking about work. The truth is, I was in shock. I didn't want to bring it up. If I mentioned it, she might tell me I was imagining things, that I was being ridiculous. The rest of the day, I felt like I was just moving on autopilot. I barely slept last night and can hardly focus on work today. My mind keeps racing, questioning every detail. Aside from what I saw, the rest of the trip was great, and nothing seemed out of place. A part of me is wondering if I read the whole situation wrong, but the look on her face, that smile, it was too friendly, too casual for something that crossed a line like that. I love my wife to death. We've been together since freshman year of college, and I've never had reason to doubt her. She's my best friend. But now, for the first time, there's this knot in my gut that I can't untangle. I've never been the type to snoop. I've always trusted her completely. But right now, I'm sitting here, wondering if I should check her phone. It's password protected, so even if I wanted to, I don't know how I'd do it without her finding out. This is eating me up, and I know I need to do something about it. Update. Found her iPad. It didn't have a password, so I got in, and it is still connected to her phone. She has Telegram on it. They've been chatting on there. I am still going through the messages, but she is cheating. I am not falling apart yet. I'm trying to keep it together to make the correct next move without messing this up. What do I do? Do I confront her when she gets home? Do I go to his house and confront him? Please help. Update 2. Thank you all for your advice. I didn't tell her anything. I have locked myself up in my home office under the pretense of needing to catch up on work. She is not suspicious. I kept the iPad with me. She hasn't used it in so long, she won't even know it's missing. I took pictures of all their messages using my phone as a safety measure as well. They have been chatting for at least 8 months as far as I can tell. Telegram is their main communication channel, it seems. They've sent each other messages and making plans on making their relationship official after leaving me and his wife. I can't believe she would do this to me. From the messages, I saw she had sent him a suggestive photo of herself on her way to the gym earlier this evening, and when she got back home, she started kissing me, wanting sex. I declined, saying I needed to get work done. I am confused right now and unable to think clearly, so I will follow the advice I am offered here. Lawyer, gather evidence. I will work on those. I also saw several comments advising me to separate my finances from hers. We co-own the apartment we live in and have joint bank accounts. My parents died in a car crash 2 years ago and left me a large inheritance, which she knows about. She does not have access to the money in that fund. Is there anything I need to do to protect myself there if it comes to that point? We don't have kids yet. Update 3. I work from home sometimes and didn't have any meetings this morning, so I spent it researching and calling lawyers. I have 2 consultations lined up for tomorrow, but the majority couldn't book me in until next week. I will tell his wife and show her proof as soon as I settle on a lawyer and get myself covered first. Once she's been informed, I will give her time to get her affairs in order and secure a lawyer if that's what she wants to do before I decide what to do next, such as confronting my wife. I don't understand how I'm feeling. I am not angry for some reason. Number maybe, sick, and nauseous when I think of the messages I've read, especially the sex messages. I just feel like I am just doing the things that I need to be doing right now. But it's almost like I am living somebody else's life. I don't know how long I can keep up the poker face without her noticing something is up. Thanks for your messages and support. Update 4. Guys, I am humbled by all the messages and advice I received. Not much has happened since yesterday, just keeping myself busy with work and the gym. The anniversary of my parents' passing is coming up in about a month, and she obviously knows this. So when she asked why I seemed off, I just told her I was thinking about them. I have consultations with several lawyers lined up, most next week, a few this afternoon. I will update after I settle on a lawyer and know what my options are. Update 5. I found a hell of a lawyer who managed to draft my divorce papers within days, which were filed this morning. I am in a no-fault jurisdiction, which meant all the evidence of the infidelity which I had gathered can't be used in court. The good news is that my inheritance is safe because I didn't use the money for marital expenses. Our condo was a wedding gift bought by both our parents. Each side contributed 50% to the down payment. So one of us will have to buy the other out, or we both sell it. I called the OBS on Saturday and asked to meet her for coffee. I chose that day because, ironically, her husband and my wife had gone on an overnight trip together. I found out from their messages on the iPad the lies they were going with, where my wife was staying at her sister's for the weekend to help with the kids, while her sister's husband was away on a business trip, and her husband was going away for a work-related project. The truth was, my wife and my husband were taking a trip out of town together and were staying at a hotel, all paid for by the Casanova himself. I showed her their messages on the Telegram app. Pictures included all of it. She told me she noticed him feeling distant and withdrawn a few months ago. She thought it was just work stress and had no reason to suspect he was cheating. Finding out that her husband was, in fact, cheating, and with my wife, who is also her friend, came as a blow to her. We chatted some more, and I gave her my lawyer's number as she considers her options. Sunday night, my wife returned from her sister's house. She walked through the door and greeted me with kisses, saying she missed me after she had spent the weekend with her lover. Her ability to compartmentalize is almost diabolical. I sat her down and told her we needed to talk. I had the whole conversation recorded without her knowledge. Following lawyer's advice, I live in a one-party consent state. Here's how it went. I asked her to promise to be honest with me. Of course, baby, but she was nervous. Then I asked her a series of questions. Do you love me? Yes. Are you happy with me? Yes, of course, baby. Have I been a good husband to you? Do I treat you right? Yes and yes. WTH is going on? Please humor me. Okay. Have I ever done anything to hurt you, whether physically or emotionally? No, of course not. WTF. Okay. So, if you're happy with me, then why are you cheating on me? She stared at me in shock for a good minute and then immediately started denying it. This went on for a little while, and then I just told her to drop the act because I found out the truth. Eventually, she broke down and admitted to kissing a guy who had been hitting on her at a bar during a night out with her girlfriend a few months ago. I don't know why, but at this point, I started laughing because the whole thing was just absurd. She not only cheated on me, but she had also taken every opportunity she could find to cheat on me. I asked her if that was the only time she cheated. She swore up and down that it was the only time and that it was a moment of weakness, that she was drunk, and it had meant nothing. I said nothing. I gave her my lawyer's business card and said I filed for divorce. I hadn't yet. I wanted to talk to her just once first to see if there was anything left of our marriage to salvage, and that if she wanted to reach me, she should call my lawyer. She cried, begged, apologized, and then when I started packing a suitcase, she shifted to gaslighting me, saying I was throwing away everything we had over a mistake. And the worst part of what she said was I had no one else in the world. Why would I leave the only family I had left? This stung, because I told her she was my only remaining family after my parents died, and there was no one else I could depend on, only for her to throw those very words back in my face. I left that night to a hotel where I am staying until I find a new apartment. Yesterday, I officially filed for divorce. Edit. My responses to some of the comments. I didn't tell her that I knew about the affair after she said she kissed some random guy at the bar. She ended up finding out from her. The OBS confronted him and called her up as well and gave her shit. The OBS was really upset when I told her and couldn't keep it in. I don't blame her. He really did her dirty. Her mom is sick, and she has been going out of town a lot to be with her. And instead of supporting her, he had been using that time to get with my wife. I didn't because I was blindsided by her telling me she kissed a random guy at the bar. It may sound insignificant compared to the double life she has been leading with my friend, but in that moment, I think I started realizing how badly she wanted to cheat on me. And it came as a shock. I was too angry to say anything to her without blowing up in her face, so I just left. It's hard to explain why. It just made more sense to leave than to try and find out why she'd been sleeping with my friend after I heard that from her. When I left the house, she kept calling me that night and leaving me messages. When the OBS called her the next day and confronted her husband, she stopped trying to reach me. It's been crickets from her since. And him too. I put 2 and 2 together because around the time OBS messaged to tell me she confronted him and called her, I stopped getting calls from my wife. OP is certainly not an AH. How can he be in this situation? What OP did is 100% justified. He acted responsibly and showed mature behavior. Not OP, but OP's wife and his so-called friend are AHs for their betrayal. So, I would rate each of them 4 out of 5 on the AH scale. As OP's actions are reasonable and hence justified, I would rate him 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from @2434 AITA. For telling my sister she's the reason her kids don't want to come around. I am a 48-year-old mother of 4 kids. I have a daughter, Kaylee, who is about to graduate high school, 2 sons in college, and my oldest son, Jerry, who has been living with me since he graduated college a year ago. My sister, Sarah, is 50 years old and has 3 kids, a daughter in high school, a son in college, and a son who's getting his master's degree. Sarah told her kids that as soon as they graduate high school, they must pay rent in college if they want to keep their rooms. I told her she shouldn't do that because it would drive them away. She told me that this is the way she wants to parent, and I should respect that. Yesterday, Sarah, my youngest sister Jen, and I went shopping to catch up and hang out. While at the store, I grabbed 4 baskets to make Halloween baskets for my kids. I gave them each a mug, a blanket, candy, and a gift card. Sarah asked why I was getting that. I told her I had seen on social media that people make these baskets and I wanted to make some for my kids. Jen also got the things to make some for her kids. Sarah said that was completely unnecessary, and we should stop babying our kids. I just told her I like doing nice things for my kids. You could tell that kind of made her mad, but we continued to shop. Later, Sarah came over for dinner. Jerry is a good cook, so not only does he do most of the cooking, he also pays for all the groceries. While we were sitting in the living room, my sister said, "When is he going to move out?" I told her, "Whenever he's ready." She said he should at least be paying bills. I said no. My goal as a mother is to ensure my child succeeds in life. He's been saving up money to buy a house, and I refuse to accept rent because that means it would take him longer to reach his goal. I explained that I don't even want him to pay for groceries, but I physically can't stop him from doing that. She scoffed but just ignored it. But what set me off is when both Jerry and Kaylee were passing through the living room, I told them to hurry up and write their Christmas list, because I know some early sales are about to start. Sarah said that I'm ridiculous, and I'm not being a good parent, because I refuse to unleash my children. She said they are too grown for Christmas lists. She said I'm raising lousy and lazy kids. Jerry told her to cool out, but I chimed in. I told her I'm a way better parent than her. I told her my kids are far from lazy. I had a son graduate salutatorian. My daughter is in the top 10% of her class. My oldest son has a fantastic job. I told her to ask herself why her children barely come to see her. It's because they hate her. I asked her what good mom expects their kids to pay rent and go to school. I told her she was the definition of a shitty parent, and she shouldn't have had kids if she was going to treat them like crap once they turned 18. She just hurried and left the house. Later that night, Sarah shared her side in the group chat that includes all my siblings and my mom. Jen told Sarah she was in the wrong and that I have nothing to apologize for. My mom told Sarah that it was unfair to comment on someone's parenting style when she hates when the same is done to her. Sarah just left the group chat. I feel bad about what I said and think I should apologize for being too harsh. AITA? OP is not an AH for defending her supportive parenting style, and Sarah unreasonably criticized it. Sarah's selfish parenting approach has strained her relationship with her own children, and she wants the same for OP, which is completely unjustifiable. So, Sarah is an AH, and I would rate her 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing